Syria, or Ash-Shām, also known as Greater Syria, or Syria-Palestine, is a historical region located east of the Mediterranean Sea in West Asia. It's broadly synonymous with the Levant. Historically, the term Syria referred to the area between the Taurus Mountains in the north, Sinai in the southwest, and Arabia in the southeast. However, in modern terms, it is used to refer solely to the Syrian Arab Republic. So Syria is this thing right here. Let's have a look. So that's Cyprus. So Cyprus, yeah, this is the Mediterranean. I think this is Turkey. This must be Turkey. Not seeing any names that are popping out to me. Okay, so yeah, we're seeing Arabia here at the bottom right, and this would be like modern day Israel-Palestine with that's the city. It's called in modern times Haifa, and yeah, that's Sinai down there, and the Taurus Mountains I reckon are up here. Because that's sort of the border. So this whole thing is called Syria, apparently. What it's been called historically, according to this Wikipedia. Let's see. So historically, Syria is this whole land, which is interesting to me because, of course, in modern times, that's not what we're calling it. And also historically is, of course, in some sort of time frame. It's not like for all of history, I'm assuming. I don't know. The term is originally derived from Assyria, an ancient Semitic-speaking civilization centered in northern Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq. During the Hellenistic period, the term Syria was applied to the entire Levant as, interesting, I don't know how to pronounce this, Coele, Syria. So under Hellenistic period, the Hellenistic period, of course, being from the moment the lands were conquered by the Hellenes, it starts with Alexander the Great, like we're seeing here. This starts around 323 BC. Of course, he dies at a very young age, and Hellenist Greece is subsequently ruled not by Alexander the Great, yet by his generals. Different generals. This region, I think, was contested between the Ptolemaic general, Ptolemy, and his dynasty that would follow him after his general dies. And it was contested between, the Ptolemaic dynasty and the Seleucid dynasty, however that's correctly pronounced. So during this period, it's referred to as Soele, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, Syria, and under Roman rule. So the Romans, of course, conquer these lands, these lands from the Hellenes, from the Greeks. This happens violently, of course. I want to say, just testing my memory here, I want to say this happens at around 500 BC, but I'm not sure. I know that the Roman Republic is kind of established, the Roman Empire is established sort of circa 30 BC, but I think the Republic is established much before this, but let's have a gander. I don't remember. I'm going to ChatGPT this, not that way. Yeah, so when is the Roman, assume control, conquer Syria. Oh, so I was way off. Way off. So, okay, hold on. So then, when was the Roman Republic founded? So that I'm saying, okay, so that 500, I was, of course, conflating everything and mixing it around. Roman Republic is 509, which, of course, starts locally around the Italic tribes and so on, and that kind of local region of Italy, expanding, conquering the Phoenicians that were in Carthage, and slowly expanding until it assumes Mare Nostrum. Mare Nostrum, I think I'm getting that right. Yeah, RC. So that's they basically control the entire coastline of the Mediterranean and the territories that are inland. Sorry, so that was a bit of a tangent, but the point is this conquest happens around 64 BC. So under Roman rule, around 64, the term was used to refer to the province of Syria, later divided into Syria-Phoenicia and Coele Syria, into the province Syria-Palestina. So So they divide this massive tract of land that they've conquered from the Hellenes, and they subdivide it into 3 provinces: Phoenicia, Syria, Palestine. Of course, we're not in the history here. I'm reading the intro, of course. I'm sure that we're gonna get into that later on. Yeah, we'll get into that in these sections if I get there. Which I probably won't. Historically, I don't. But let's see. So under the Byzantines, the provinces. Fast forward, by the way. Byzantines, of course, it's still the Roman Empire, but when historians or Wikipedia editors refer to the Byzantines, they're talking, of course, about the Eastern Roman Empire, and this is after the Western Roman Empire has collapsed, which is circa 400 BC. AD. So under the Byzantines, the province of Syria Prima and Syria Secunda emerged out of Coele Syria. And then we're rushing forward again to the Muslim conquest of Syria. The term was superseded. This must be kind of after 630 BC, right? Because, of course, that's when the religion is founded by the prophet. It's around that 630 time. The term was superseded by the Arabic equivalent Shām. So these are different caliphs, I think. Rashidun, Umayyad, Abbasid, Fatimid, Bilad, Ash-Shām. These are different caliphates. It was the name of the metropolitan province encompassing most of the region. In the 19th century, so now we're just flying forward in history, of course. These are what these intros on the Wikipedias do. They really condense history into into a paragraph. We've gone through, what is that, more than 1,000 years of human history in the span of a paragraph. So of course, you don't have resolution here with these. But so in the 19th century, so that's the 1800s, the name Syria was revived in its modern Arabic form to denote the whole of Bilad al-Sham. That we see that here for the first time, either as Sūriyah or the modern form Sūriyah. I'm not picking up on the nuance there, which eventually replaced the Arabic word of Bilad al-Sham. Okay, throwing ourselves more forward, after World War I, which would be the 20th century, right? The boundaries of the region were last defined in modern times by the proclamation and the subsequent definition by French and British mandatory agreement laid out in the Sykes-Picot Agreement. Okay, so these are these 2 Western European superpowers at the time, and between them they lay out these borders, which is the sort of last modern definition, and it's in Sykes-Picot. Following the Arab Revolt, which I'm not sure about, I want to highlight on this. I'm not sure what the Arab Revolt is. So the Arab Revolt, also known as the Great Arab Revolt, was an armed uprising by the Hashemite-led Arabs of the Hejaz against the Ottoman Empire amidst the Middle Eastern theater of World War I. Okay, so then I'm just curious. I think Hejaz. What is Hejaz? Was never sure. So the Hejaz, Western Arabia. Okay, so during World War I, there is this revolt. So Hashemite-led Arabs, right? So I should have known that Hejaz is in Arabia, because saying the word Arabs means these are coming from Arabia. Against Ottoman Empire. I don't know why at this point. I'm actually ignorant of this part of history, unfortunately. Sorry, I lost where I was. Yeah, so during the Arab Revolt and the Franco-Syrian War, interesting. France. Syrian, at this point, who is the Syrian? So I guess the Syrians are, okay, these are similar terms. So the Arab Revolt, probably these same Arabs, I'm assuming, these Hashemite-led Arabs. These Hashemite-led Arabs are also revolting against France. The Arab area was divided and passed to French and British League of Nations mandates. So League of Nations mandates, by the way, has its own Wikipedia. It represented some sort of legal status under international law for specific territories following World War I, involving the transfer of control from one nation to another. Legal status. It's as if these, the superpowers in the League of Nations. Interesting. So League of Nations is not UN, right? UN today constitutes a lot of actually, I'm not sure about the differentiation there between League of Nations and United Nations. I'm assuming there's a difference here. But the League of Nations was a platform for the superpowers of the world, France, Britain, the USSR, perhaps, Germany, America, to discuss and to do foreign affairs together. And yeah, of course, this would ultimately be like parsing out where my territory would end and yours will begin, right? I'm France, you're Britain. Where are we going to parse this line? And the League of Nations is a platform, and when we sort it out, these become mandates. So it's like a League of it's a mandate. I'm assuming mandate Palestine, mandate all these Indian mandate. These are all things that are sorted out. And I guess when you say British mandate Palestine, for example, okay, of the many examples that exist, it goes without saying that this is a League of Nations mandate. I'm assuming, right? I'm not sure. Of course, if you're new to this channel, always feel free to give a timestamp and a correction for anything that if you're some sort of expert, you want to let me know. Love to hear it. Okay, so moving on to the end of this paragraph. Subsequently, the 5 states, Greater Lebanon, State of Damascus, State of Aleppo, State of Alawites, and State of Jabal Druze were established by the French. Are these mandates? I'm assuming these are mandates. While the British controlled Mandatory Palestine and the Emirate of Transjordan. It's a weird sentence. It's not really... Oh, sorry. It is a sentence. Yeah, so subsequently these 5 states were established by the French while the British controlled Mandatory Palestine and Emirate of Transjordan. The term Syria itself was applied to several mandate states under French rule and the contemporaneous but short-lived Arab Kingdom of Syria. The Syrian mandate states were gradually unified as the State of Syria. Aha. So the Syrian mandate states were gradually unified as the State of Syria and finally became the independent Syrian Republic in 46. Wow, that's only 2 years prior to the founding of Israel. So 46 is when they kind of do their independence. Throughout this period, pan-Syrian nationalists advocated for the creation of Greater Syria, sometimes as a step forward, step toward achieving a broader pan-Arab state. Okay. We are moving on. Let's go to history. That's what's interesting to me. Excuse me. So, ancient history. So, Herodotus uses ancient Greek. I don't know how to speak Greek, fortunately. To say this, to refer to the stretch of land from the Halis River, including Cappadocia. This is from the Histories, section 1.6. In today's Turkey, to the Mount Cassius, which Herodotus says is located just south of Lake Serbonus. According to Herodotus, various remarks in different locations, he describes Syria to include the entire stretch of Phoenician coastal line, as well as cities such as Cadiz, which is Jerusalem. Okay, so Hellenistic Syria. By the way, when was Herodotus around? Let's see. When did Herodotus live? Okay, 484 to 425. This is, of course, after the founding of the Roman Republic. I think, though, he's a Greek. And this is before the Hellenistic period in Syria. So he knows of this. And, of course, he was living in Turkey, in Bodrum. Of course, we know that the Greeks had colonies all over the region. They had, like, small colonies there. In Turkey, I reckon here as well, in Syria. So let's keep reading. So Hellenistic Syria. So in Greek usage, Syria and Assyria were used almost interchangeably. But in the Roman Empire, Syria and Assyria came to be used as distinct geographical terms. Syria in the Roman Empire period referred to those parts of the empire situated between Asia Minor and Egypt. I.e. the Western Levant, while Assyria was a part of the Persian Empire and only very briefly came under Roman control, 116 to 118 AD, marking the historical peak of Roman expansion. This is, of course, during the Pax Romana. The ancient city of Apamea in Syria was an important trading center and a prosperous city in Hellenistic Roman times. Let's have a look. So this is a Roman colonnade in Syria. This was around, so when this was established. So after the conquest of Alexander the Great, so must be, in the sort of mid 4th century BC. Okay, Roman Syria. So in the Roman era, just rehashing everything so we get our timeline straight. This would be after 64, because after 64 AD, basically the Romans, 64 BC, right? 64 BC, we just did this, sorry, my memory is shot. When did Rome conquer Syria from Greece? Right, 64 we said, yeah, BC. So in the Roman era, so this is after 64 BC, the term Syria is used to comprise the entire northern Levant and has an uncertain border to the northeast that Pliny the Elder describes as including from west to east the kingdom of Commagene, Sophene, and Adiabene. Okay, never heard of these countries. Greco-Iranian, Sophene, Adiabene. Various writers used the term to describe the entire Levant region during this period. The New Testament used the name in this sense on numerous occasions. In 64 BC, Syria became a province of the Roman Empire. I should have just kept reading to this because I would have gotten here. So in 64 BC, Syria becomes a province of the Roman Empire following the conquest of Pompey. Roman Syria bordered Judea to the south, Anatolian Greek domains to the north, Phoenicia to the west, and was in constant struggle with Parthians to the east. In 135 AD, Syria-Palestina became to incorporate the entire Levant in western Mesopotamia. In 193, the province was divided into Syria proper and Phoenicia maybe, I don't know. Sometime between 330 and 350, the province of Euphratensis was created out of the territory of Syria Coele and former realm of Commagene with Hierapolis as its capital. So a lot of names to describe this piece of territory. And it's divided and subdivided, depends on the administration. Naturally, each one thinks each progressively new administration will divide it and subdivide it in a way that they please, in a way that seems more practical for them. After 415, Syria Coele was further subdivided into Syria I, with capital remaining at Antioch, and Syria II, or Salutaris, with capital at Apamea on the Orontes River. And in 528, Justinian I carved out the small coastal province Theodorius out of the territory from both provinces. So at this point, we have. I actually am curious what religion these people were having or living by. Were they kind of Romanized? Not the Roman aristocracy that was ruling here, administering themselves, but the people that were here. What were they living in Syria? Were they pagans? Were they Phoenician religion? I don't know. I'm curious. Roman Syria. Maybe it will say it here in Roman Syria. Demographics. Here we go. So this is from a page on Roman Syria. I was curious. So identity. The inhabitants of Syria, so people that lived there, adopted Greek customs while maintaining elements of Near Eastern culture, whatever that means. The continuity of pre-Hellenistic cultures was inconsistent across different regions and where it existed. It varied, including Aramaean, Phoenician, and Neo-Hittite influences. However, many areas documented exclusively Greek elements. In contrast, to the Jews who shared a collective historical memories, Syrians lacked a unified cultural and societal identity. The unifying aspects in Roman Syria were Greek civic structures and narratives promoted by Roman imperial rule, suggesting that Syrian culture was largely defined through Greek and Roman influences. The term Syrian therefore primarily functioned as a geographical designation. Interesting. But they did have these. I am curious, so the Phoenician religion, so I'm curious. I am curious to what extent people living there had, like, how true this is. It's easy to say that Jews had a social identity, but I kind of reject this idea that they had. There's a whole paper here. Let's see, shall we? It's this one. This is the source for that. It's the introduction section of Syrian Identity in the Greco-Roman World. So this is Cambridge University Press. Let's have a look. Ugh, it's not available for preview, unfortunately. Oh, it is. Oh, we don't have that much. We only have this first. But I don't know. Hard to say. Never know with these things. If like, yeah, I'm super curious if anyone here knows about this sort of heritage, because now to like modern Syria, you have all these Muslims, like it's a predominantly Muslim, it's like in the Muslim sphere, in the Ummah of the Muslims. But this is of course because of the conquests of their prophet, the prophet of the Muslims. But before that prophet, it was like under Byzantine rule. Were they Christians at that point? Like just were most of them Christians? I don't know. I would assume they were. And then they were conquered and basically converted. Is that what happened? Like it was kind of Christian, like a Christian heartland? I don't know. Let's go back to the main. Right, so we were here. Yeah, not that much longer. So now we have this Bilad al-Shām. Okay, so this is the moment, although we didn't have Byzantine Syria, which bothers me. Oh, actually, maybe we didn't finish this. After 415, oh yeah, we just read this, sorry. So, okay, so Bilad al-Shām, so between 634, 638, the region was annexed to the Rashidun Caliphate, okay? Enter the beginning of the Muslim Empire, kind of, or the Caliphate, rather. And this is on account of a Muslim victory over the Byzantine Empire at the Battle of Yarmouk. It became known as the province of Bilad al-Shām during the Umayyad Caliphate. The Sham was divided into 5 juns, or military districts. Okay, so basically it's been conquered violently, right? This is how conquering works, I would assume. You have a war, you have battles, it's violent. And from this point forward, the land has been conquered thoroughly and annexed and is being occupied now by these Muslims who will do their administration on land. Like the Romans before them, they will start to administer and rule as they please, and give them names, give new names to these different like subdivided areas. They're called Juns. We have Damascus, Hims, which is homes, Jund Philistine. There we go, Jund Philistine for the area around Tiberias, a city in northern Palestine, and Jund al-Urdun. So interesting, and that's around Ramallah in southern Palestine. So they create 2 Juns in Palestine, the Urdun and the Philistin. Later, Jund Kinasirin was carried out of part of Hims. The city of Damascus was the capital of the Umayyad Caliphate until the rise of the Abbasid Caliphate. Interesting. The period was considered a rapid re-Semitization period in usage of Arabic language after a long period of Hellenization and the usage of the Greek language. Like a crazy volleyball game here with the people that are just living there. Like they're conquered by the West, like with the Hellenes, and they're conquered by the Arabs, but it's considered a re-Semitization. Interesting. And now, okay, let's see. What I am curious, the Abbasid Caliphate, where their capital was. Governance, currency, capital. Okay, the new Samarra, that was the capital, which is in Iraq. Interesting. I'm also curious, like, because there's the Jerusalem, which is contested among Judea, but it's contested among Christians, Jews, and Muslims. And I was curious because before this, it like wasn't. I guess I'm more broadly curious, like what led the prophet to like start this massive conquest of the area. I guess that's what I'm more curious about, because I don't know about it too much. Okay, so let's keep moving on. So we've gone now to the Ottoman Syria. So in 1516, the region was conquered by the Ottomans, and it was divided again. Okay, every time there's a new like head honcho, he just does the administration that he sees fit. fit, in a way that that the man in charge sees it to be, I guess, the most easiest way for him to rule, right? He wouldn't choose a way that's very complex. He would choose a way that's easier for him to rule, or that makes more sense, right? It's all a question of efficiency. You want to have the most efficient administration. So they divided into this word I'm not going to try, or sub-provinces, sub-provinces, and the borders of which, and the choice of cities as seats of government within them varied over time. The vilayets, or sub-provinces, of Aleppo, Damascus, and Beirut, in addition to 2 special districts of Mount Lebanon and Jerusalem. There we go. Aleppo consisted of northern modern-day Syria, plus parts of southern Turkey. Damascus covered southern Syria and modern-day Jordan. Beirut covered Lebanon and Syrian coast from the port city of Latakia southward to Galilee, while Jerusalem consisted of the lands of the Galilee in the west and west of the Jordan River and Wadi Araba. Although the region's population was dominated by Sunnis, it also contained sizable populations of Shia and Alawiya and Ismaili and Syriac Orthodox and Maronite and Greek Orthodox and Roman Catholic and Melekite and Christians and Jews and Druze and so many different like religions, or not religions, I guess, branches of religions. Major urban centers such as Damascus, Aleppo, and Beirut continued to serve as regional hubs after the end of the Ottoman rule. These cities maintained economic and social ties with each other and with surrounding hinterlands. This illustrates how older networks persisted alongside the emergence of new political borders under the French and British mandates. Okay. Moreover, cities were not simply absorbed into nation-states. Rather, they functioned as enduring nodes of regional integration and helped define regional order. Okay. Arab kingdoms and French occupation. So the Occupied Enemy Territory Administration, OETA, was a British, French, and Arab military administration over areas of the former Ottoman Empire between 1917 and 1920. We're in the 20th century, guys. During and following World War I. The wave of Arab nationalism evolved towards the creation of the first modern Arab state to come into existence, the Hashemite Arab Kingdom of Syria, on 8th March 1920. The kingdom claimed the entire region of Syria, whilst exercising control over the inland region known as OETA East. This led to the acceleration of the declaration of the French Mandate of Syria and the Lebanon and British Mandate for Palestine at the 1926 San Remo Conference, and subsequently the Franco-Syrian War in July 1920, in which French armies Franco-Syrian War in July 1920, in which French armies defeated the newly... Okay, this is very confusing for me. So there's a lot going on here. Franco-Syrian War, 1920, which French armies defeated the newly proclaimed kingdom and captured Damascus, boarding the Arab state. Thereafter, the French general Henri Girard, in breach of the conditions of the mandate, subdivided the French mandate of Syria into 6 states: Damascus, Aleppo, Alawite state, Jabal Druze, and the autonomous Sanjak of Alexandria, modern-day Hatay, and the Greater Lebanon became the modern state of Lebanon. Despite the political partition of the region under French and British mandate after World War I, economic, social, infrastructural conditions across former Greater Syria persisted throughout the 1920s. Trade networks, road and rail links, and patterns of migration and commercial exchange continued to span the new borders, which reflected deep interdependence of the territories politically. Besides the increasing importance of Zionism, the region saw growing nationalist movements. These occurred within new countries as well as on a regional scale. And now we're here in this pan-Syrian nationalism. So the boundaries of the region have changed throughout history, obviously, and were last defined in modern times by the proclamation of the short-lived Arab kingdoms of Syria and subsequent definition by French and British mandatory agreement. The area was passed to French and British mandates following World War I and divided into Greater Lebanon and various Syrian mandate states, mandatory of Palestine and the Emirate of Transjordan. The Syrian mandate states were gradually unified as the Syrian state of Syria and finally became an independent nation in 46. Though throughout this period, Antun Saadeh and his party, the Syrian Social Nationalist Party, envisioned Greater Syria and natural Syria, based on the etymological connection between the name Syria and Assyria, as encompassing the Sinai Peninsula, Cyprus, modern Syria, Lebanon, Palestine, Jordan, Iraq, Israel, Kuwait, and the Kilkilian region of Turkey. Okay, now let's just check out what they envisioned. This was the natural borders of Syria, Greater Syria. Reminds you kind of like there's the extremist Jews who believe in Greater Israel, right? And it's like this massive chunk of land. Okay, so I hope you guys are as confused about this as I am. This is the Greater Mosque in Aleppo. This region has many names and has had many rulers over time. And it's confusing, and we haven't even read anything other than like a Wikipedia page that of course is hogwash sometimes. Anyone can edit these things, but I think it gives you kind of really like broad view and sums up things in a playful way. By playful I mean like kind of this simple, it oversimplifies stuff in a way that almost feels like you're playing with history. Nabi Musa. This is recognized as a heritage site. Okay, that was I think Jerusalem. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I did. And summing this up, now, thank you. Thanks for watching if you got this far.